My lifestyle before coming to the church, I was very argumentative with my mum. I used to run away from a very young age. When I was about 12, I got involved in the wrong crowd. They was older than me, so I used to be influenced a lot with them. I started raving at a young age, used to go to parties a lot, come back in like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I wouldn't come home. I was very angry all the time because of abuse that happened to me. So I blame my mum for most of the things that happened in my life. I was addicted to crack cocaine, alcohol, cigarettes, as well. I used to take ecstasy, but I wasn't addicted to that. From a young age, I was drinking anyway, from about the age of 12. And then it led on to other things where I was addicted to weed. My addiction escalated when I was in my 20s, and it led to, I was addicted to crack cocaine. But I was heavily addicted where it got to the point where I lost my house, my children. My life was like basically destroyed through the addiction. I wasn't able to manage myself. I couldn't look after myself well, so 2, 3, 4 days I used to go smoking. So I used to be up, go to sleep for like 2 days, and it was just like a vicious circle. That's how I used to live my life. Also, where I lost my house, I started sleeping in crack houses, where the crack houses are places where you go and buy your drugs. They're not very clean, dirty mattresses, people's got needles in their arms. So this is the lifestyle that I used to live. And I used to, like, you know, sleep from house to house where I never had nowhere to live. Certain times that I've slept outside, you know, in the parks and things like that, because where I never had accommodation to, you know, to live, to go. The lowest point of my life was, I had many children. I had 13 children together, but there was a time where my family members stepped in to take some of my children. But I remember that I distanced myself from them, and I lost contact with my mum, and I ended up falling pregnant. And from then I had 4 children, which they was removed from my care, in the sense where the social services took them when they was like babies. So as soon as I had them, I only held them for like 6 hours, then they was removed. And that went on for, you know, I had one after the other. So 4 in total. That was the lowest point of my life, because it was like, I never had no control of it because of the addiction. It's like I swapped my addiction, you know, for my children. So I never had no control over this. And to make it worse as well, there was like an order, so I was restricted to whether to see my kids. If I was to see them, there was always someone there with them. So I think that was the lowest point of my life. I used to be on an estate called Bulldaughter Farm, and every day, like in the mornings, I used to be there, sitting outside, and I remember there used to be a gentleman. I can't remember his name, but he was an assistant and he used to speak to me. But because everyone used to know me on that estate, they used to know me like I was addicted. You know, I used to use and things like that, so a lot of people used to avoid me. But I remember one day he was speaking to me, and it was the first time that anyone ever sort of like spoke to me in that way. And he took time, he was speaking to me, invited me to the help centre. I didn't go, but I remember him saying about it, where it was and everything. And then when I had my daughter in 2005, the same thing happened. She got removed from me as well. So that was like my 5th child was going to be taken into care. So I decided to go and find the help centre, and that's how I knew about the help centre. Basically, when I was coming to the church, I was in and out of the church. I didn't, you know, I didn't take part in the chain of prayer, what they told me to do. I kept on breaking, I kept on leaving the help centre, coming back. And then I remember I actually even stopped for a little while, but then afterwards I left the church. And then I remember one day I decided that I had enough. I saw the testimonies of people's lives who'd been transformed, and so I decided to take part in the chain of prayer. When I was taking part in the chain of prayer, I remember that it was like about 3 or 4 weeks had gone past, and I realised that desire for me to, because it didn't happen overnight, the desire for the crack went, but I was still smoking and I was still drinking. And then slowly, like, you know, the taste of alcohol went, and I think the last one that went was the cigarettes. So it was like a process, you know. When I was coming to the help centre, I wasn't speaking to like the assistants, you know, I wasn't confiding in anybody because I think it was a shame for me. But then I remember started opening up to people, speaking about my problems that I had. And it was not only just about the addictions that I had, it was things that was in my past that I had to sort of, you know, tell them about so they can be able to help me. So my advice is, like, when you come to the help centre, you know, to speak, tell the pastors what's going on. You know, even sometimes I think as well your past dictates to you, so you can't move on from that. So my advice is, you know, to speak, open up, participate in the chain of prayer, because it really does work. I am Maxine, and that was my story.